Power bill monthly is about that thick, and it's about $65,000. And we have an existing Excel spreadsheet that we just dump it into, and we're learning how to read it.
Well, you've added a utility line item, so I'm assuming in the future there'll be a budgeted amount for that. Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a matter of correcting, more correcting.
Thank you. And Kiki, my questions are informational. I mean, I think you're doing a phenomenal job.
Thank you, I
Okay.
appreciate that. And again, I'm learning as I go. Every day is a new learning experience. So again, Parks and Grounds and Parks, Sports and Recreation are sort of intermingled. So page 15, Animal Shelter, we're adding $300, Workers' Comp adjustment. And that gets us to total expenditures for general fund, $17,700,000. All right. Overarching questions about general fund? Any detailed questions about general fund?
Not so much a question, Kiki, but I'm really concerned, and I'm sure you guys have discussed this. Looking at next year, inflation's not getting better. Interest rates are not getting any better.
No.
Things are just going to get more expensive, and I mean, I think drastically more expensive. I'm not trying to be the soothsayer of doom here, but if you read the tea leaves of what's going on, everything's about to go up significantly. And so I think that we're definitely going to have to look at this, for the next fiscal year and make sure that we're tightening our belt as much as possible to offset some of these increases, just like we have to do at home. When gas costs more and groceries cost more, you offset some of these things. So I appreciate what we're doing, but I just want to put that out there that I don't see this necessarily getting better with the economy looking the way it is. So I appreciate City Manager, I appreciate what you're doing, but I just want to make it known, let's make sure we're keeping an eye on this.
Well,
It's funny you say that.
needs to be the next 6 months, not wait till next year. This is an indicator that we're going up, and
Well, that's why
we're borrowing $1.7 million from CDL, and then we're gonna, at the end of the year, look at ourselves and say, hey, we've done it again. I mean, so we really need to make a serious adjustments and try to come in on.
But now the CDL was it was a loan. It's a
Right.
non
It's something you had to
forgivable
do,
loan that we needed
but-
to use due to COVID.
But the indicators are, there's gonna be increased to budget.
My takeaway from this is this commission needs to be careful too, because if you look at it, we have already approved $1.1 million of this. So if you got anybody to blame, the buck stops at this commission. We voted to approve 1.1 million of this increase. So, and I take responsibility because I'm one of us. So. But that number shocked me when I saw that number, that we had approved a $1.1 million increase in our budget. So, sorry, go ahead, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Next is the disaster fund. So, in reviewing what we believe will be coming in from FEMA, we had originally thought we were going to be bringing in close to 13 million. It looks like now, between now and the end of September, it looks like it will be closer to $11 million. So we have reduced that revenue by $2 million. The insurance, we still are of the belief that we will be bringing in something close to $5 million in insurance money between now and the end of the year. There are certain adjustments here on the SRF money, and it was a coding error that was brought forth from the last budget. So the net adjustment is for $2.5 million. As far as expenditures go, and now I'm on page 16 of 27, we adjusted down the legal fees. We had originally thought there would be $800,000 of legal fees, and that's net of the insurance money. The legal team that works on recouping those insurance monies charges a percentage, but we're just receiving the check. So when the check comes in, they've already taken their cut. So I'm booking the net of the money when the check comes in. So I've significantly reduced that expenditure number. We're not going to be using that $1.8 million for professional services others, so I've removed that from this budget, as well as the 828, that's been removed. There are a number of different items that we just don't have time to do this year. So as you can see, there are lots and lots of different adjustments here. The PPDR program has been completed. We had originally budgeted $600,000 in this budget. It's done. We should not have any further invoices come in. I confirmed with Crowder Golf. We have a check that we have to pay them for $350 or something, and I'll have that for you later today. But very minimum, that's all gone. Other adjustments, you can see that there are just many, many, many adjustments. So when all is said and done, the expenditures for the disaster fund on the bottom of page 17, we believe we're going to be spending $16,893,000 versus our original projection of $19,000,003. You see at the bottom of the page the bolded numbers. Questions about the disaster fund? All right. And 102. That is the 501c3 that has been closed out. Those are just the small dollar donations that are done. All that paperwork has been completed. The last bits have been closed out. I am receiving $16 checks here and there that I am signing a letter and sending back to the donors saying thank you for your continued support. However, we are no longer accepting donations. The need has been met. Fund 103. That is the COVID fund. We're keeping that open, although I'm not really sure if we're going to see any more funds come into Fund 103. I think that might be done. But there is a little bit of money still in there. There's $24,000. I don't think that we're going to see any more money from the federal government in that fund. 201 has been closed out by the auditors. There's $15 in there. I just need to make an adjustment to get rid of that $15. All right, so Fund 301, that's the surtax fund that I spoke about earlier. Now I'm on page 19. You as a body had directed me to make prepayments on the Series 17 surtax bond and Series 18 surtax bond. I'm here to inform you there will be no additional funds available to make those prepayments. Unless the economy dramatically turns around, we are seeing a dramatic drop in revenues. I will keep you informed if that changes. I just don't see it happening this fiscal year.
And normally, we have money in this fund here. When we did this sweep that the commission voted to do, it really took away that little cushion that we normally would have in this fund.
We are committed to the $1 million for the paving project.
That's exactly
And
right.
the $180,000, I think it is, for the paving the senior center parking lot. And over and above that, there's really no
There's
extra
nothing.
wiggle room in this fund. All right, the water fund?
Just real quick,
Yes, sir.
at a minimum, the revenues coming in are at least covering the bond payment.
Yes,
Yes.
Okay.
yes.
All right.
Yep,
Yes.
we have enough money to make payments,
Yeah, I
just
know,
no
I
additional.
just want to make sure we hadn't depleted it to where you weren't going to be able to make the
No,
payment.
No,
we're
no,
making
we
the
have-
payments, that's not a problem.
Okay.
All right, the water fund, I'm making no adjustments to the revenues. However, we are making an adjustment to cash carry forward because there are some adjustments to the expenditures. I'm on page 20 now. Some minor adjustments here and there, the largest of which, need my ruler again that I didn't bring with me. $300,000 to professional services. And off the top of my head, I don't know what that project number is.
What are you looking?
21035. Computer went to sleep. So if you give me a moment, I'll.
I have a quick question. You said you made no adjustments to revenue in the water. Is that
Correct.
expected? Or with all revenues going down, are we gonna see less revenue from this is the water bill, correct?
What page are you on? Are you on the water?
20.
He's on 19, I believe.
He's on 19.
No water revenues, 19.
I don't foresee that there's going to be a massive, I did not forecast that we needed to make an adjustment to the revenues in the water department.
Because they are actually they're trending up a little bit, and that's not a bad thing at all. So we just decided to leave it flat there. Okay. Yeah.
Typically trends up as spring and summer. get
Expense,
warmer.
yes, you're exactly right.
It went to sleep on me while we were talking about other things. Let me try and come back to that for you. Well, that's the largest thing in the water department. Oh, and I believe that it was a roll-up from the we moved $200,000 from the old system improvements into a different project and gave it a different project number. So if you look on page 21, you see the negative $200,000. We took that $200,000, we rolled it up into that $300,000 above. It was just a reassignment of money there. I did need to increase the bad debt by $40,000 where, based on the directive of this commission, we really did not actively pursue folks who were unable to pay their water debt after the hurricane and during COVID. We are now trying to actively collect those accounts. As you might imagine, it's a bit difficult, and people are having some trouble with that. So I've had to increase the bad debt because it's hard 2 years later collecting money for people that have forgotten about us.
Did we not at one point vote to waive some of the,
We have waived, over the process of the last 2 years, we didn't charge them late fees, but they still owe us for their usage.
okay, that's, okay, I
And
was
we've-
trying to remember what the vote was, so we.
And
okay.
we've been billing for the usage, but they haven't been paying for the usage. And they've moved on, and 2 years later, now they're getting their bill, and we're saying, please pay us for the usage. And they've said, well, but it's 2 years later. And we're saying, yes, you owe us for the usage. So the customer service department has quite a challenge in front of them. All right.
I mean, do we have a process set up to turn it over to the collection agency at some point?
Yes.
That's
we do.
starting now.
Okay.
Yes.
And I hate to do that, but, you know, we did waive the late fees and stuff and tried to help people, so.
We did.
Thank you,
It was good intentions at the time. It was a thoughtful process. We have unintended consequences now.
Yeah, Yeah, that is an option, and if you don't mind, during the commission meeting, you could bring that up for the commission to discuss.
May I?
Just one thing too, Stephanie's here, and Stephanie's been working on the credit bureau. I want to just let her to give you the history on that, if you will, just, so
She is
you guys
working
yes,
with individual customers.
Yes,
And I don't mean to speak for Stephanie, but from my perspective, you have to be careful. You can't just blanketly say if you haven't paid your bill, that's okay, because
Right.
it's not fair to the people who did pay their bill.
Right.
Well, then it opens the door for
Right.
other people to choose not to
Right.
pay their bill. And
Correct.
expect to be
So
forgiven.
Yes.
it's a very delicate,
Yeah.
delicate situation.
Stephanie, will you come and give kind of the process that you're working on to get that, our bad debt?
Good morning. So we are working on collecting bad debt ever since Hurricane Michael. It's been a slow process here and there, but now we're able to kind of hit the ground running with it since we're kind of cleaning up the books. We are running into issues where, the people left because their homes were destroyed and they never provided a forwarding address because they didn't have one at that time. So there's several different various issues leading to that, but the process now is we are sending out letters to these residents, and we're apologizing for the delay in reminding them of this debt, but we are also giving them more time to pay it. Typically, when your services are disconnected, your choice, you have a month to pay that bill. A month later, you will get a letter from us stating you still have a balance due, and it's due again in 30 days. So after the 60 days, that's when we end up writing the balance off and sending it to our credit bureau. So we're treating everybody as having this letter, giving them another 30 days, and then we'll be sending it over at that time. Anybody who is able to contact us, we're, again, taking payments from these people. It's an unexpected amount sometimes, so we're still taking payments. We're going to work with them in any way we can. So this is one of our common questions and common disputes. There's different family sizes everywhere, and everybody has different watering habits, whether it's inside or outside. So one of the questions that I don't love to answer is, what is an average water bill? Because everybody uses a different average. Some people, their water bills are about $50. They'll be surprised to know that other people use an average of about $150 a month. Yeah, yeah, I see it. No. We do have, of course, due to Hurricane Michael, typically when you leave your property and you do not notify us that you've left your property, eventually your services will be disconnected for non-payment. Well, due to the hurricane, of course, we weren't disconnecting for non-payment. So these residents who did not notify us that they were leaving continued to accrue a bill for several months after that. So those are our bulk of the bigger bills. But again, we are working with those residents, and they're able to provide us with documentation that states, when they left. So those base rates can be negotiated.
We're not going to get in the weeds too much
No.
on this, but thank you very much.
Thank you,
for the
Stephanie.
report.
Thank you.
I know we got a limited amount of time to finish the budget, so thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you, Stephanie. So the project number that I was unable to look up for, Shannon was gracious enough to get it for me. In the water department, 21035, the $300,000, that's identified as emergency repairs. All right. So moving on to the sewer department. Page 21. Again, I've made no adjustments to the revenues. However, I've had to increase the cash carry forward by $836,000 on page 22, you can see that the adjustments to the expenditures, the bulk of which is for the agency bond fees. That has to do with the debt service. There was a debt service schedule that was inaccurate that I've had to change. And just another one of those learning experiences. So the ending for the sewer is at $5,937,000. The rest are small adjustments here and there. Questions about the sewer department? Also, bad debt, we've increased by 30 grand. Same explanation that Stephanie just gave you. 404. Also, with the stormwater, we've had to increase their expenditures by $207,000. At this point, we've taken additional money from sanitation to fund their shortage. And their shortage is primarily coming from R&M infrastructure. Now I'm looking at page 24 of 27. You see the $205 there. Sorry, $205,000 there. That's the bulk of their adjustment. And again, that will be paid for from the sanitation department. Sanitation department, that cash carry forward number there, the 209, again, to help on page 25, that helps pay off the stormwater money. Very small adjustments on their expenditures on page 25.
So in essence, you're having to pull out of sanitation's reserves, transfer to stormwater to cover stormwater expenses.
Yes, sir.
That is correct.
When do the stormwater assessments go into effect?
That will happen October 1st, if everything goes well and the commission passes all of the fees. And so we'll know that when we start to do our next budget, we'll know whether or not by then, hopefully, that what the rates will be so we can build that into the budget.
Fiscal year,
Yes,
no, but
yes.
when will we actually see money coming into the?
November, so normally we see it about December. You have that wave of people who pay right when they get their taxes, and so you see a lot of it come in December, January, February, and then you'll have some trickle in March, so you'll see a nice portion of that.
Page 26 of 27, this is your CRA report. We are increasing your expenditures by $18,000 for a number of different reasons. We did make an adjustment on the signs that we found that we had actually accidentally included them in twice. So you will see a debit and a credit going in there. They've cleaned that up.
Signs, the signs that we spent $75,000 on.
61,000.
Has anybody seen them?
They're
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah, matter of fact, I texted Ben and
He
told him,
did.
great job.
Aren't they beautiful? They're already up.
Already up? Where are they?
They're along.
One over by the
77.
barber shop out here.
Yes.
Yeah, they're all.
Those are the ones that we voted on last year, the 61,000.
So netting out to 18,487, modest adjustment to the CRA there. So again, as I mentioned, the ending budget, 54,332,000, so almost back exactly where we started last September. Further questions?
My only takeaway is that we need to work on making sure the stormwater fees, because by my calculations, we transferred, what, 1.19 million out of, from water to stormwater, and 470,000 from sanitation to stormwater. Is that what my numbers read? For the overall budget. No change from water to stormwater in the mid-year, but a $207,000 increase in the mid-year.
Additionally,
So basically, we're subsidizing stormwater to the tune of 1.6 million, from the other funds. So that's why we've got to do something about the stormwater. That's why this fee is gonna take care of it, hopefully.
Aren't we getting that grant as well that will be going towards stormwater, correct?
The American Rescue, yes, we actually sent in the application for that last week. And so hopefully that money will be in within the next couple of months for us to utilize.
Because that'll beef up that account pretty well.
Absolutely.
We sent in the application, we're not approved, right?
Well, the money has already been approved for the
Approved?
cities,
Okay.
but you have to go through the process to draw it down.
Okay.
So, Commissioner, got any questions for Kiki about the budget? We've got about 10 minutes left before Commissioner. Any questions? So let's open it up to the public. Does the public have any questions? Hearing none, I think we're going to close this workshop. Kiki, thank you very much for all the work you and your department's doing, and keep moving forward with us. Thank you, ma'am.
thank you.
And we got about 10 minutes for the commission meeting. So, thank you for being here.
in the same community. I thank you, Father God, that you are a good God and a good Father to us, and that you've watched us through this recovery, and you'll continue to do so. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So thank you all for coming out this morning, and before I get started, if our staff members, if y'all see any more residents come in, if you would please, if the seats fill up, would you please, give the residents a seat? Thank you for that. Thank you all for coming out this morning. I'm sure y'all have seen the latest news, and unfortunately, we've got some more housekeeping business to take care of on items 18 and 19, and just one more black eye for the city of Lynn Haven, unfortunately. But we're going to keep moving forward and do what we have to do. On a good note, I received a letter this morning, and I have not read the book yet, but anything I can do to help a Lynn Haven resident. We've got a disabled military veteran that has written a book. It's available on Amazon, and the name of the book is, and I'm hoping this is okay for doing this, but The Life of an American Patriot. So if you're interested in reading a book, I think it's $9.95 on Amazon. You can help out a disabled military veteran that lives here in Lynn Haven. If anybody wants to see the flyer, I'll have it up here. But like I said, he asked if I could help, and we do what we can. So that's all I've got for the mayor's report. We're going to move on to the commissioner's report. Commissioner Tender, would you like to go first, please?
Sure, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Basically, it's been a very busy 2 weeks, mostly campaigning and that type of thing. But I've been dealing with a couple of residents too, and I think we're getting their issues taken care of. That's really about it. Just staying busy. Thank you.
Commissioner Aldridge?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. The only thing I really had was my mic's not up. Can you turn my mic up so that Arlene can hear? Thank you. You got it. The only report I really had, I guess, was at the business that I have, we have semi trucks, 18-wheelers coming in and out every day, delivering and picking up products. Last week, I had a truck driver actually come into my office to see me, and he personally wanted to tell me that he had a delivery over here in Lynn Haven, and he said that the only address that was on there was to City Hall. So he said he pulled up over there, and of course there is no City Hall over there anymore, so he didn't know where to go. And he told me, he said, Brandon, he said, I was over there, and it was such a pleasure dealing with the people and employees over there. He said they helped me with my truck. They told me where to go. There was 2, 3, 4 people that spoke with the man and helped the man out. And he thought it was important enough to come see me in my office and tell me how awesome he thought that was. So I just want to give kudos again to the employees here. It goes a long way to be kind, and it makes a large impression when we do the right thing. So I know we're on that course, and I know Miss Vicki harps on us doing the right thing, and us being customer service oriented. And so I want to give you guys a pat on the back and say it doesn't go unnoticed by people. So thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Perna?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. In the last couple of weeks, I've attended the St. Andrews Bay Estuary Program meeting that we're trying to set up a director and get that program going. I attended it by Zoom. It was also the same day as the TPO meeting, which was the day after the commission meeting and the Mill Bayou workshop. So that was a busy week. I'd just like to let everyone know, based on the TPO meeting, that was a hard vote, that last meeting. I know y'all agree on that, and I still want the citizens to know that we won't stop being in their corner on the traffic issues and what's going on out there. So I went an hour early and met with DOT and had a conversation with them, and their concern was, is this is this about the lack of, or the 390 project or whatnot? And I was like, we all agree that 390 widening would be the answer to some of the problems out there. Well, they said they had good news that there may be a stimulus program coming to them where 390 can get right back in, and we're hoping that that was an optimistic sign, and that was stated at the meeting also. Also, it was stated that they're going to start the resurfacing project on 390 from 77 to 231, and they didn't want anyone to be confused that when the work started happening that it was the widening project. You know, when the very next thing or the last thing on our agenda item last time was to talk about the utilities and stuff for the resurfacing project, but we're getting ahead of it and making it for the widening project as well. So that being said, I think there may be something very good about the 390 widening project coming back in. I also think that we won't stop, you know, being in the corner of the citizens. And I actually just had a conversation with Bobby, and we're gonna try to get with the county to see if they can't, when they're doing the resurfacing project, possibly add a turn lane out there by Cato Road, because they are going to be widening the road for a bike lane when it comes through. So I hope that, you know, I can appeal to the commission and say that let's try to stay on top of the county to see, because at the workshop they said they would be open to changing or doing something that they could get paid back by DOT for. You know, to me, the whole idea of resurfacing a road and then turning around and widening a road kind of makes me scratch my head pretty hard about the money that gets spent. You know what I mean? So I think we have options. I think we can really get together with the county engineers and try to get this thing put to bed. So and I want people to know that we're not done, you know, working on things for them, even though we made a vote that didn't seem to go in their direction. So that's all I have to say about that. I did meet with one citizen, and she got with Chris Lightfoot. I'm on the email string on that, and I think you guys are too. And I just want to thank everybody for what they're doing, all the city employees and everybody. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Perna. And moving on to the city manager's report.
Yes. I have two checks before me, $373 and $32,928. One is to Crowder Gov, and that's for the PPDR that we just talked about in the budget workshop, and then the other one is to Tetra Tech, to make the commission aware of that. Before I go into my report, I'm going to just to ask Kiki to come in and do a financial update if there are any questions that the commission has.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kiki.
Thank you,
We started back, and we never stopped actually recognizing the employees of the month, but we actually have them come now. So that's one of the reasons you'll probably see a little bit more employees, because you'll see that employee and you'll see that supervisor. This month's employee of the month is Ron Lamar. Ron, would you come along with your supervisor, Fire Chief? And Fire Chief is going to just say a few words about him.
Good morning, Commission, City Manager. Once again, thanks again for recognizing these hardworking employees. Inspector Lamar came to us about 2 years ago into the fire department to take on fire inspections. He's been with the city for almost 12 years. His first role in the city was chief mechanic. In the 2 years that he's been with us as an inspector, his tenure is probably equivalent to somebody with 10 years in the inspection field. He takes his job very seriously. You'll probably hear some complaints, you know, well, why is he making me do this? Or why is he not allowing me to do this? It's all by code. You know, we have that holy Bible of codes, and that's the only thing we require. So his hard work and dedication has definitely paid off in the last 2 years. He's first to jump out there and help the city with projects to make sure we're doing things on the right. So I just want to say thank you, and I appreciate the commission for doing this.
Absolutely. Good job. Thank you. Another good thing that we like to do is recognize the departments. We used to do the supervisor of the quarter But we recognize that the supervisor of the quarter could not be the supervisor of the quarter if not the employees were working for that supervisor. So I know it has Department of the Month, but it's actually Supervisor Department of the Quarter. This month's Department of the Quarter is, I think everybody will agree with this one, Stormwater Division. Would you all please come forward? Chris Lightfoot, Bobby Baker, if you guys will come forward and receive this award. As you know, they have been working very hard to really clean up a lot of the stormwater issues. They beg for a lot of money, I can tell you that, but one of the things is we want our citizens to feel like they can live in their city without always being afraid that they're going to flood out. So you will see these guys working so very hard, and all of the work that they've done, I just want to say thank you. And the Department of the Quarter is voted on by their peers. So thank you guys very much. In my report, I just want to cover a couple of things. In the interest of transparency, you may have already heard about the contracted building code official that has been arrested. Commissioner Russell has already talked about that a little bit. We are addressing some of the issues separately, meaning finding and collaborating with municipalities and maybe other private building code officials that can help the city of Lynn Haven out until we decide later on in the agenda what we will be doing. Great news, groundbreaking is May 19th. That's on a Wednesday for the municipalities, which will include New City Hall, Old City Hall, PD Chamber. That will be right out front where the OPD Chamber used to be. I'd like to thank Florida Architect for helping put this together. And working with us, and Culpeper, who has stepped in and will be providing us with the shovels and hats. And so it's going to be a great time that we will be able to finally start the rebuild of the city. We also have been preparing for hurricane season. This is the time that the department heads get together, think about those things, and talk about those things that we did well last year, we didn't do very well, and actually go back and try to tweak those things so that we're ready for the hurricane season. Just so residents will know that sandbags are not just given out when there's a storm. We have those available to you all the time. You can go to Ken Griffin Park, pick up your bags, and then go out and fill your bags, sandbags, where you are ready to go. We are also working with the 4th of July celebration that's going to take place. As you know, last year we did not have a parade, but this year we will have a parade, and we will have the 4th of July celebration at night. That'll be on that Saturday, July the 3rd, because 4th of July is on a Sunday. So we're still working on that. Table Talk is May the 29th. That's on a Thursday at 5:30. We had a really great discussion, a good group of residents that were out this last time, and I hope you will come out and join us. This is where you ask your questions, you get questions answered, you get information, you get the real information of, I know there's a lot of noise that goes out with a lot of things, so I just want to be able to be very, very transparent and open with the residents, and they ask tough questions sometimes. Sometimes I have answers, sometimes I don't. But the most important thing is that they are informed. You'll notice that the blue lights that are kind of hanging around at night when you pass by, this is in really recognition. May is for National Law Enforcement Month. Last month we recognized Child Abuse Month, and so we just kept them up. So I just like to just recognize our law enforcement and thank them for the job that they do to keep the city of Lynn Haven safe at all times. Let's see. There are a couple other things that I want to bring to your attention. The city did and was approved for $5.2 million to the project. It was a project that would improve the West 10th Street improvements. It's an infrastructure grant. The governor was here last week and he talked about money coming into Bay County. That was part of that money that we received, that $5.2 million. And it will truly help with some of the pipes that around 1960s that hopefully, they won't collapse before we get to them, but we recognize that there's a lot of infrastructure that needs to be done. We continually apply for grants. We just found out that 2 more grants have made it into the next round, which we're pretty excited about, and that was project on Florida Avenue, and then on Ohio Avenue, and that's the Minnesota Avenue sidewalk repairs as well. So we have a lot of good things going on in the city. Right now, we are in the midst of the rebuild, and just let me give you some numbers so you can know where we are in this rebuild here. The commission has already passed a couple of projects, and those projects, all of our projects are coming in within budget. As I can tell you, as I talk to other cities, their projects are coming way over budget. And ours are coming in, maybe $200,000, but that is a very small compared to some cities that are 6 million, 8 million, 10 million over budget. And so right now, if we were to rebuild this entire city and we could, rebuild it in a year, it would cost us about $28 million to rebuild this city. That is $28 million. We have close to $21 million in the bank for restoration. We have almost $11 million that we will receive from FEMA. And the way that works is once we start the rebuild, we pay the money. We can draw it down now. Matter of fact, we started the rebuild and we got the process to go forward. We would go in and say, can we get half of the money? Say, for instance, we have $1.8 million that is set aside for the PD and chamber. We can go right now, once that project is approved by the Environmental Historical Preservation Committee, and say, we want half of that money. If we use up that money in a month, we can go and get the other half. That's the way 428 projects work. So there's 428 project for the Chamber PD. That's a 428 project. The sports complex is a 428 project. That is $2.7 million. That's for the building of the sports complex. And so right now, if that is passed today, it goes through, which has already been obligated. The only thing we now have to do is request half of that money. If we use that, we can request the other half of that money. Same thing with parks. One of the great things that FEMA was doing for us is that they separated the A&E fees as opposed to construction fees of the parks. So right now, we have $1.5 million that FEMA has set aside for the parks for A&E fees. That money has been obligated. And now that means that we have about $8.9 million for all of our parks throughout the city of Lynn Haven that we can use to restore any of our parks. The great thing with a 428 project is that you can use money from project to project as long as it is a 428 project. And so, give you a great example. We did the bridge internally. That means Joe Guys. We decided to do that internally because we knew we could do it cheaper, could save us some money, and we looked at the money that was left, and that's about $1.1 million. We can take that $1.1 million and put it on any project. That's a 428 project. And so the city has money to rebuild. I don't ever want any resident to think that we're rebuilding out of our scope of what we have within our budget. The money is there. It's just the start of it, and then that money, we start to draw that money down. So I wanted to give you kind of an update on everything so you know where we are in the rebuild. Okay? That is my report.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I appreciate you being detailed about that. So, listen, moving on to the city attorney's report.
Just one thing, I did speak with Jeff Carter this week, who's handling the insurance claim, and he's going to be looking to come back to us for some sort of settlement authority. The issue he was talking about maybe doing an executive session, the issue is you have to have pending litigation, not just threatened litigation, so we're trying to figure out a way to, he can come and update us, obviously, but to get him some sort of settlement authority, which obviously if something happened, it would have to come back to the full commission, so just kind of keep that on your radar. I'll be talking to Vicki about that. That's it.
Thank you, sir. And moving on to the public commentary. Anybody have anything they'd like to? Yes, sir.
Gary Keel, 808 Minnesota. I understand that the park at the corner of Illinois and 9th Street has come under question. This commission voted a couple of meetings back to name it after my granddaddy, John B. Creamer. I was very proud, and now I understand that there is a person or a group of persons that are opposing it being named this. I don't know why. I don't feel like Oyster Bayou is an appropriate name when all the other parks in Lynn Haven are named after people. And as I say, this commission voted to name it John B. Creamer Park. And I have also noticed on the city's website that I think somebody is jumping the gun. It is already listed as Oyster Bayou Waypoint Park. And I was wondering why it is being called that. But Oyster Bayou, I have lived here for 75 years, and I spent a lot of time with my granddaddy, and I had never heard of Oyster Bayou until just a few days ago. And yes, it was at one point Oyster Bayou. And this goes way, way back. It was called Oyster Bayou back in the 1800s. A man by the name of Thomas Anderson moved onto property on the west side of Anderson Bayou in 1859. This is a long time ago. Lynn Haven had not even been thought of. It was not even the Civil War. Anyway, after he moved there, the bayou became Anderson Bayou, which I have always known it as, and my granddaddy always knew it as Anderson Bayou. So, I just want to let this commission know that I am opposed to it being named Oyster Bayou Waypoint. I don't know what significance that has, but I would appreciate it if this commission would stand by their vote and leave it at John B. Creamer Park. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it, Mr. Creamer. Actually, the Oyster Bayou Waypoint was an initial concept name that was put on the website probably months ago, and I think we realized just off that comment that it's still there. So we'll change that. I don't think there's any opposition to it being named after his grandfather at all. I think that was just the initial concept when we started designing the park. So we'll take care of that this afternoon. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Ty. Any other public comment? Yes, sir, Mr. Walker. I didn't even see you come in. Good morning, Mr. Walker.
hiding again back there. I hate to, not hate to, but it's just like revisiting something, but the Bayou thing is of concern to me. And it is a concern to me with the city of Lynn Haven. A long time ago, years ago, I mentioned the fact of one way in, one way out. And nobody listened then, and nobody's listening now.
When you say bayou, you talking about Mill Bayou? or
Yes,
Bayou
Mill
Preserve
Bayou.
Park?
Mill
Okay,
Bayou.
Okay, I just want to
No
clarify.
reference to the park, I'm sorry. It gets to be, one of the things that came out of these meetings here is you are going in fear. You're afraid of being sued. I don't like a government that has to run in fear. You presently have 5 lawsuits against you, against us, the citizens. You have one that's probably pending also. These are going to be astronomical. If you run the city government by fear, you got to listen to FDR. The only thing about fear that you do have is fear itself. Long time ago, there was during a war, and that's a possibility that you might have a war and you might have one of these enclaves surrounded, and it might be that way. It became apparent that to save the lives of over 100,000 people that had one way out had to fall on the civilians. And that way was by boat. And they did it with the help of the British government. The place was Dunkirk. The civilians launched. They were asked to help. The only way out to save those people was by boat. Now, I've been overseas, embassies overseas, and at times that we have to think about saving our people. In Monrovia, we had a United States carrier sit offshore. In South America, we had a cruiser sit offshore. On the land were the civilians, and they had to get out. They had to get out their way. The reason I'm saying this is you've got one way in and one way out of most of your places. In fact, your residence has one way in, one way out. You live in a gated community. This doesn't bother you. You live in a semi-gated community. Doesn't bother you. The people in Bayou, Mill Bayou, are going to be caught, and you know it. There is a way out. Mr. Lightfoot explained it to me. All you have to do is either eminent domain or buy the property on the Pipeline Drive. And that's the way out. And you're saying, well, eminent domain is no good. That's true. How many pieces of property along 390 have been eminent domain? How many businesses have been lost? How much has been taken off our tax rolls by eminent domain to do one thing? Satisfy the safety of the people. And that's what's a concern at Mill Bayou right now. And you can do it if you can get over the fear. And you can win this. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir, Mr. Scray.
Hello, Ryan Scray. So at the last meeting, I had asked after the referendum for the charter had failed. My belief is that most people voted no because they didn't get to participate in making those changes. I had asked the commission to think about making a motion to set up some kind of community citizen-led initiative to do that. There was nothing done at the last meeting. So I reached out to a bunch of citizens to ask if they'd like to start on that. So I created a group called LH Charter Revisions. And the purpose for that is to form a citizen-led group to complete a comprehensive and total review of the Lynn Haven, Florida City Charter and propose amendment to the City Commission with the intent of a future referendum vote and or working with any city-created efforts to do the same. That group, there's about 9 of us so far. We're going to be meeting Saturday morning at 9 a.m. at Wild Root to talk about kind of what the intentions are, what we'd like to review in the charter, just various things like that. So I just wanted to let you guys know that, and then also if you still wanted to consider making a motion to actually have a city and citizen-led effort, I'm sure all 9 of us would be happy to participate in getting that comprehensive review done and getting it started now rather than waiting for, months down the road. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scray, and to your response.
Anybody's welcome to join us Saturday morning at Wild Root at 9 a.m. if they like.
Thank you. And to respond, would you please add a note to let's add an agenda item to the next commission meeting for discussion and possible approval to start a committee to review the charter? Yeah. Well, yeah, but we can start a committee to make recommendations for the for us, but would you just add it to the agenda for the next commission meeting?
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yep. Any other public commentary? Oh, yes, ma'am, come on up. And I think I saw Mr. Dick's hand next, so we'll go Mr. Dick next.
I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
My name's Vicki Keel.
If you don't mind, ma'am, could you pull the mic now? Thank you, ma'am.
I live at 808 Minnesota Avenue as well. I live with this gentleman here with whom I have lived for 53 years. I just thought, pertaining to the park, the little park, that's not just simply the family wanting aggrandizement for Mr. Kramer. I thought you all might like to know a little of the history of Mr. Kramer. In his youth, in his younger years, not his youth, he was possibly close to Lynn Haven's first postman. He ferried the mail between Southport and Lynn Haven on a rowboat. Mr. Kramer was a fisherman. He lived his life on the water. He never owned a boat with a motor. He rowed it everywhere. He had more than one docking area on Anderson Bayou. But when he brought his fish in, he landed at that little point because it was closer to the fish house, or to the ice house, excuse me. And he carried his catch of the day on a croaker sack, and most of us are old enough to know what croaker sacks are, on his back to the ice house. He was a generous man, and he did much for the city. We should make it known that actually he did not just give the land to the city. He sold it for $10 to the city. But we have always known, I didn't know Mr. Kramer. He was gone before I married his grandson. But ever since I married my husband, I have known that Mr. Kramer gave that land to the city for a park. That has always been known to the family. And it's only been 70 years since that deed was made. And now the city is making it into a lovely little park. I know that Hurricane Michael had something to do with the fact that it looked so bad that things were being done. But we were so gratified when we heard that you were actually going to name it. Now, there was some talk made of a historical plaque. Lovely. That would be lovely if somebody wanted to put the history of the area on a plaque and put down there as well. But we really are grateful, and we're very gratified that finally, at long last, Mr. Kramer was being honored for his gift to the city. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I think, Mr. Dick, you had your hand up next. Oh, did you want to say something? Oh, okay, I thought I saw your hand up. Yes, sir, Mr. Dick.
Brian Dick, 3217 Country Club. I'm a little confused with the numbers for what we've received or rebuild. Ms. Tenders told us that the sports park was going to cost $40 million. And we only got $4 million in insurance. So I don't understand. I'm a bit confused of where these numbers are coming from. If somebody could give me some clarity, that'd be great.
I don't know where those numbers are coming from, but I know that we track everything that comes in terms of the city. We have received from insurance as of now $11 million $15,873.56. We saved from FEMA $9,921,154.70. And that gives us a total of about 20.9 million, close to 21 million now, since this last report here. And then just to go on a little bit further, remember that the governor did waive that we we will get our money at 100%. So that gives us another additional $1.4 million that we will have in our pockets. And so basically, we've done the math. We have a spreadsheet that we keep up with all of the budgets that the commission approves, and it is nowhere near that amount. So I'm not sure where that's coming from.
Typically, we don't answer questions, but since we've started.
I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
yeah,
I
okay.
totally agree with you. Yes.
Okay. There's nothing else to be said? Anybody else have any public commentary? Hearing none, we're moving on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda includes items 8, 9, and 10. And let's see. Item 8 is the minutes from the April 27, 2001 regular meeting minutes. Item 9, Corona Emergency Supplemental Fund, CESF, COVID Justice or Criminal Justice Grant of $104,704. And then item 10, approval of a late time extension request for RV trailers and pods on private properties for residents affected by Hurricane Michael in accordance to Ordinance 1071. And item 10 is related to 1219 Massachusetts Avenue and 3323 Country Club Drive. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Before I ask for discussion, I'd like to say, again, great job, Police Department. You know, going out there looking for the money. I mean, it's another $104,000 in our pocket. So I'm not sure. Was it Brian that took care of that one?
Brian Blaylock.
Yeah. Well, pat Brian on the back for us.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Is there any discussion with the commission?
I think it's great.
Any discussion with the public? Hearing none, City Manager, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Commissioner Perno?
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell?
Yes. Very good. Moving on to new business, item number 11, discussion and possible approval of resolution 2021-05-356 to approve the 2021 mid-year fiscal budget. And Ms. Roman, if you would like to step up. Oh, I'm sorry, yes, and I need to have the resolution read.
Yes. A resolution of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, amending the final budget for fiscal year 2021 and providing for an effective date.
Yes, ma'am. Anybody have any questions about the budget from the workshop? Any questions of the commission? None? Okay, this is a discussion of possible approval, so I guess I should have asked if there was a motion first.
Yeah, motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Now, is there any discussion? Any discussion with the public? Mr. Walker, please step forward.
This question could have been answered at the workshop had we been advised. I didn't know we had a workshop this morning. I didn't see it posted anywhere. I didn't see it told to anybody. I'm sorry I missed that. My concern here is, as a citizen dealing with the CRA, you have the CRA midterm budget in here. This is not the CRA board. You are the CRA, the city. The CRA board you are going to approve a CRA board. CRA board is an independent organization. It has its budget and its audit, and everything is done independently. Not that I want to challenge it, but I feel it's incorrect the second time to tell you that you should have a CRA board approving its budget. The CRA advisory board, who I attend, does not know anything about this. We don't have the privilege of even addressing it. But I noticed there are changes in the CRA budget. Mine is. I don't have an explanation because I can't go through 20 pages of line items to find exactly what changed. It looked like we added some money to one of our programs, which I don't know about. My point is this. The CRA budget, independent, I believe the CRA board should vote on it. I don't want to question your authority or anything like that. I just want to point out things. And I believe we've got to get some of these boards and some of these commissions in the straight line of thinking for the people and do their job. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And, you know, just to address, I did speak to Ben about that, and when the CRA board does meet, they're not required to do a mid-year adjustment. So, I mean, obviously what you're doing here is fine, but it would have to be ratified and voted on by the CRA board, which will probably be, you know, this fall, obviously, at their budget time. So that will get done later this year in the CRA board meeting.
Thank you. Any other comments? Hearing, yep. We already had a motion, right? Yeah. So there's no more comments. So no more comments, so please call the vote.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Parno,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell.
Yes, motion carries. Again, Kiki, I know you've walked off. I just want to say thank you for all your work. Item 12, discussion and possible approval of CEI inspection services for legislative paving phase 2. And Mr. Baker.
Good morning.
The floor is yours.
As you know, we're starting our legislative paving program. It's about $2 million. As part of it, DOT requires us to have a third-party inspector. So we've reached out to Dewberry, who's under contract with us, which did the first phase. And they've given us a proposal that falls within the scope. And so we're asking for approval to go ahead and get it approved to get them on board to do the inspection and testing. And hopefully the project will go out for bid within the next 30 days. DOT has approved the plans, and so we're good to go.
Thank you, sir.
Oh.
Anybody have any questions for Bobby?
Yes, sir. I move to approve the 100,125 not to exceed Dewberry.
Okay, you got a motion?
Second.
Motion and second. Is there any questions? The commission? Any questions from the public? Hearing none, city manager, please call the roll.
Commissioner Parno,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yep.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell.
Yes. Motion carries. Item number 13, discussion and possible approval of the 800 megahertz communication system interlocal agreement for the police and fire departments.
Sure, I can handle that. The county and the city of Panama City entered into an interlocal agreement for the new 800 megahertz public safety radio system. So it's a similar arrangement that we've had over the last 10 years or so. So they basically have mimicked that same arrangement. So the city and the county, Panama City and the county, have the initial interlocal agreement, and then all the other cities who participate in the radio system join on as third parties to that agreement. So that's what's before you today. The police and fire chief have looked at the numbers, and basically the main numbers based on the number of radios. Obviously, we have a full police department, full fire department, so there's a significant number of radios. So you'll see that's the $500,000 number, and then the rest of it would be system maintenance. And so basically, what the county has done is, based on your number of radios, each city has a proportionate share of ongoing maintenance. We're able to finance that through the county, or you could purchase it on your own. I think we're financing it through the county's radio system. And so what you have before you today, like I said, is the actual third-party agreement where we are agreeing to join into that interlocal agreement to join into that system.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for the city attorney?
So it's basically just the 10 years kind of sunset. We're just
They
starting over
upgraded, and there's a new new radios, new upgraded radio system. So the old one,
They're having
yeah,
to get a new console
became,
and new radios.
old one became obsolete, so they're doing a whole new system.
And our payment for this is budgeted money.
It will be in the next budget year. We have some of it in this budget year, but the majority will be in next.
Is this payment a substantial increase over what we've been paying?
Yes. Yes.
May I ask how much more?
In your packets, it says that the total number of radios is 147 radio units, and the city shall pay to Bay County the sum of $505,000 and $357,000. The cost of the radio unit and the cost based on the ratio of the number of radio units that it has in the system compared to also the equipment and the infrastructure costs. So that's what we have right now.
What were we paying before? This is a
Yes,
full.
yes, you can come and answer.
Good morning again, guys. Let me just clarify. About 5-10 years ago, we had our own radio system. It was failing. The county at the time graciously allowed us to get on their system with no cost, with the understanding that we moved to the new system. So, with that being said, unless we want to spend millions of dollars to build our own radio system, this is our best option. Plus, it allows us to communicate to the other municipalities in a state of an emergency. So before, we had a zero payment. Now we're going to have roughly $200,000 a year maintenance. Does that kind of clarify?
And I don't think it kicks until next year, right? There's not a payment.
Correct.
There's no, it's zero the first year.
The first year is zero, and then we move in, and I believe it's not a 10-year loan, if I remember right, it's 7.
Yeah. So my understanding from what you're saying is we've got two options. We either do a standalone system ourselves and bore the cost of the entire thing, of the entire system, or we do a share cost with the county and the cities, other cities.
Correct. And just to keep in mind, if we don't go on this system,
We can't communicate.
you better start getting a tower put up because we don't have no infrastructure. So, and they're fixing to make the switch. I think police department is live now. The fire departments are going to start rolling on here within the next few weeks. You know, it's kind of a foolish thing not to be part of that group. And plus, remember that we can use impact fees for some of this infrastructure.
Yeah, I think the hesitation probably, obviously, is the $500,000 we're looking at. That being said, you cannot have no communication for our emergency services.
It's our lifeline.
It is what it is.
It's our
I mean,
lifeline.
So
If you don't want to give us radios, we might as well just go.
right. You can't use a can with
Yeah.
string, can you?
Correct.
So, that being said, I'll make the motion to approve. I don't see another choice and not.
I'll second it.
We don't.
Motion is second. And is there any discussion of the commission? Any discussion of the public? City manager, please call the roll.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Commissioner Parno,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell.
Yes, and I
Thank
want
you.
to see that string strung from the police department to the fire department. Let's see, moving on to item number 14, discussion and possible approval of the final acceptance of park construction equipment and assignment of warranty for the Lynn Haven Bayou Preserve, or Park and Preserve. Mr. Robos, this is you again.
Okay, sure. This is the next step in the process of actually taking over the Lynn Haven Bayou Park and Preserve. The Trust for Public Land, the entity, the not-for-profit entity that actually acquired those 97 acres and went and constructed it, all with the intent, with the donation agreement that's been in place of donating it to the city, is just about done. It's almost, I think it is substantially complete. So the next step is for them to have us enter into this agreement to accept those improvements and that equipment and the warranties. Basically, you know, whatever unpaid contractors are out there will still be paid by the Trust for Public Land, and then we'll receive a deed and actually own that land in fee simple. And I know we touched on it earlier as far as maintenance. There is a $3.5 million DEP grant that's already in place. That's a cost reimbursement. So once we get the deed and take over all the maintenance, we will have funds available for the next 10 years or until we spend that $3.5 million, whichever comes first.
Just out of curiosity, do we have a date on when we will take possession and when we'll have it official open? I know people are asking me, when are they gonna get to go out there?
No.
And they keep seeing that sign, you know,
Yeah.
state will prosecute you if you
Yeah.
get caught on it.
We don't have that official date yet.
No, okay, all right, just curious. So what's the purview of the commission?
Motion to approve.
Is there a
Second.
motion? A second? Do I hear a second? Okay. Is there any discussion with the commission? Any discussion with the public? Hearing none, city manager, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Aldridge?
Yes.
Commissioner Parno?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell?
Yes. Very good. Moving on to item 16, discussion and possible approval, no, I'm sorry, 15. Trying to get, I go to work that faster, I guess. Discussion and possible approval of City of Lynn Haven Sports Complex Phase 2, recommendations for award on portion 2A-civil. This is Vic Gaynor, I believe you got something to tell us on
Yes.
this?
So the bids went out, and we opened bids on April the 22nd. We had 6 bidders. They were from different parts of the state. The low bid was Quillen Powell Construction. Part of that bid was the civil part of it, and this is what I thought it was more transparent, as that we see the civil side of the site work first, approve that, and then look at the construction side. So the civil side, the site work, is $1.2 million, part of their bid. And so they were the lowest bidder, and we're asking you to approve that.
And for clarification, this is site work for the
Sports complex building.
building. Yes. Okay. Just want to make sure because we've already.
Sports
voted on that.
complex
Yep.
building, not the ball fields.
Fine.
This is DAG, the $1.2 million.
No, sir, this is DAG is going to, and that's two items down, but this contractor was the lowest bid, Quillen Construction, Quillen Powell Construction.
Horizontal work for the construction for the building.
I see that. It's a DAG letterhead.
Well, they're the ones they're the ones who were putting the project together and are
Handling it.
thank you, managing the project for us. Right.
Yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem? May I ask a question?
Of course.
I remember distinctly that we talked about this, and city manager can answer this for sure. When we first voted to start with Phase 1, it was with the caveat that we would have Phase 1 paid for before we started Phase 2. Have we done that? Is Phase 1 paid for?
Phase 1 is, the money is there to be paid for. The only thing we're waiting for now is for FEMA to tell us we can start that project. You guys have already approved it, and they are doing what's called historical preservation. They're going through and making sure that there are no any type of environmental issues with our ball fields. Once they say that this can start, we start. You've already approved that project to start.
Okay, but we still haven't paid for Phase 1, is what you're saying, right?
We have not paid for it, but we do have the money to pay for it.
And how much was Phase 1?
Phase 1 for the sports complex ball fields was at $6.9 million. We have $8.9 million that has been set aside for FEMA.
Okay. Thank you.
And this item 15 is 1.221 million of the 6.94, right?
That is correct. You're
Okay.
exactly right.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion with the commission? Any discussion with the public? Hearing none, city manager, please call the roll.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Parno,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender.
Can I ask one more question, or no? Too late for that?
We're in the vote. Yep. Sorry, now.
Okay, that's all right. No?
Mayor Pro Tem Russell.
Yes, motion carries. Moving on to items, if you want to ask a question now, please go ahead.
Well, no, I realize that we did this whole project, or we're doing it all in phases. So phase one, you're saying that, and I just want to make sure that I'm understanding what you're saying. Phase one is 6.9
Yes.
million. And how much is phase two that we're about to?
6.94 total. 1 point, yeah, it was in the packet. 1.221 for the horizontal work, 5.677 for the vertical work.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Item 16, discussion of possible approval of the City of Lynn Haven Sports Complex Phase 2. Recommendation for award on portion 2B, the gymnasium, which we're calling the vertical work.
Exactly. And we just explained that, of course, we had 6 bidders. Quill & Powell came in as the low bid. The construction side of it is 5.6 million. Our budget was 5.4 million. These prices are really good compared to some of the other pricing that has come through from some of the other cities and the bids that are out there. We know that pricing is going up. And just so the public knows as well, once this is approved by the commission, they don't start work immediately. This project still has to go through some final phases in terms of, again, EHP. It has to go through FEMA. That usually takes about 2 months, sometimes a little bit less. And so we will see these projects probably stagger in terms of when they get started.
Thank you, ma'am. So any discussion or questions with the commission?
Mayor Pro Tem, if we put a limit, like, because there's change orders and stuff, so we agree to this now, we can cap
Well,
it
any change orders would come back to the commission, too,
Sure,
of course. Yeah.
but we can say not to exceed this amount, correct?
You can do that.
Sure, yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, sir, I'm sorry.
I would move to approve the amount of 6,940,000, not to exceed,
For the total project, correct?
for the total project.
Okay. So for item 16, the actual number is 5677.
So it's minus the 1.2?
Yeah, item 16, we're dealing with the 5.677 million.
Minus, not to exceed 5.677, so.
Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you, sir. I just wanted to make sure we had the same.
No, I
we're talking
didn't.
about the same number.
I thought it was to approve the whole project.
Yeah, well, yeah, she broke them out into vertical and horizontal, so now we're working on the vertical work, yes, sir. So we have a motion on the floor.
And I'll second that.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion with the commission?
You know, I do, Commissioner Tender, I do think I understand what you're thinking, maybe with the phases, you know, because and I kind of wanted to explain it, and correct me if I'm wrong, but because when we did phases, we were thinking more spread out over time, spending less money, I think, right? So you're thinking it's going to be years maybe before we get to phase 2. And that may happen with some of these other phases. Like phase 4, it could be years. Phase 3, it could be a while out. But this money has already been obligated by the federal government. So that money's there. However, we're not going to obviously pay for anything until we have an invoice, which is, again, far off in the future. So I was just saying I understand where you're coming from basically on the phase thing. Am I correct on that?
Basically, so that we didn't fall behind. That was the caveat when we voted on it, I thought.
Yep.
And as well as if we were only paying by invoice, do you have any idea? They're certainly not going to wait until we owe millions and millions.
No, actually, we've asked them for, if you don't mind me answering this, we've asked them for a schedule. We're asking all of our contractors for a schedule payment. When those payments will come through, that's what we did with the City Hall project. We've already asked them for a schedule of payments so we can see when those payments will come in. We will do the same thing with all 3 of these projects.
Okay. And you bring that to the commission, obviously.
Oh, absolutely. Yes,
Thank you.
ma'am.
Thank you.
All right. Any other discussion with the commission? Any discussion with the public? Yes, sir, Mr. Scray.
Hello. I have a question regarding this one. When the bids came in and evaluation occurred, who participated in that evaluation to ensure that these bids met all of the technical specifications that we're looking for?
DAG Architect, that's who we hired, DAG Architect and Panhandle. They were a team. If you remember, for some of you don't remember, and I'll go back and just very briefly, we hired 3 teams. We hired 3 firms that will do just what you're asking.
Yep.
And so the city has almost a lot of the hands off because we're not the experts in it.
Right.
This is third party so that they can see it from a different perspective. And they will be also the ones that keep us in line with the spending. And so making sure that those contractors are following those task orders and are putting in the correct equipment, information, everything.
Right.
That's going to be their job.
Okay.
Yeah,
So we're
they-
relying on their recommendation since
Right.
that we hired them to do that. Okay.
Absolutely.
And they're also our construction managers.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then is there a way we can see that evaluation results?
Absolutely. Remember, this is just a low bid, and it's actually in your packet here.
I was looking through and I didn't see anything. I mean, are we doing just lowest price technically acceptable and deciding that they
Absolutely,
were
unless the city
based
wants me to-
based on DAG's recommendation, they've determined that they're technically acceptable?
Is based on not only DAG's recommendation, but is based on the pricing here. If you look at the pricing of all of the
Right, but
contractors.
pricing aside, it was just determined by DAG that they're technically acceptable?
Right, yeah,
Yes.
they'll look at open all the bids, make sure they meet all the technical
Right.
specs first. And either, if somebody doesn't, they'll just throw that bid out or disqualify it or reject it. And then of all
And-
the ones that are qualified to meet the specs, they'll present the price, low price.
Okay.
And we do
When-
that in front of the public. So we'll
Okay,
open those
is
up.
there a notice of when the bid openings are?
Absolutely.
Where is that posted and how far in
Um,
advance is that posted?
When any project is over $250,000, it has to be advertised for at least 30 days.
Okay.
We just did not advertise here in Bay County. We advertised in several different states. Well, I think it was Alabama and Georgia.
But the
several
bid
different-
opening specifically, when is that
It
public?
says that in the ad, when the
Okay.
bid opening will be.
And that
It sure
tells you
will.
exactly when it's opening and where it
Mhm.
is?
And then we
Okay.
have it posted on our website as well.
So anybody from the public could have come and attended?
Anyone. It's a-
Okay.
anyone can do that.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Thank
For-
you.
For the record, I stayed clear of that bid opening because I didn't want any.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
And matter of fact, just as, so you all will know, all of the contractors that bidded on this were in attendance as well. So they can sit there and listen to the bids while they're called. And all of the required documents are called off to make sure that everyone has required documents. If someone does not have a required document, then that bidder could be what's called non-responsive.
Any other public commentary or questions? Hearing none, city manager, please call the roll.
Commissioner Aldrich,
Yes.
Commissioner Parno,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell.
Yes. Before we move on, I just want to point out 2 things. Number one, first of all, thank you, DAG, for the work you're doing. 6 bids. I love seeing, the competition. And I don't believe I've ever seen this company's name on anything we've bid on since I've been on this commission. So it's nice to see some fresh faces, some fresh companies in here working. So, I mean, I think that's a good step forward, for people seeing that we're trying to do the right thing, so. All right, moving on to item 17, discussion and possible approval of the City of Lynn Haven Sports Complex proposal for Phase 1, Phase 2 services during construction. And this is.
Yes. This is just the construction side of it. You've already approved in terms of the civil side of it, but this is the construction management side. And of course, we did hire DAG. We hired Florida Architect. We hired Mott McDonald to do all of our architect and engineering. But once the construction starts, we will need certified people, as Mr. Scray has asked about. Do we have those people in place? These people will be in place. And so the construction management is a different fee as opposed to the engineering and the planning and the designing. And you told us to come back to you in terms of when we got ready to start this construction to get this approved, and we'll bring it before you.
So this is the construction management contract.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions of the commission? So,
Motion to approve.
we have a motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Now, is there any more discussion with the public, or the commission? Hearing none, any discussion with the public? Hearing and seeing none, city manager, please call the roll.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell.
Yes, motion carries. Again, thank you for one more step moving the city forward, so I'm excited about this. All right, now moving on to the less exciting item. Item 18, discussion and approval to terminate Gordon and Associates contract as building official, inspector for the city of Lynn Haven, and give the city manager the authority to hire a building official and inspector as employees of the city of Lynn Haven. This is a discussion approval item, so, and I'll start the discussion. I'm sure most of y'all have seen the news, that our building official, who was a contracted company that handled our inspection services for the city of Lynn Haven, I want to make it quite clear that he was not an employee of the city of Lynn Haven, which some people have made comment to that. This commission, terminated EPCI a couple of years ago and hired Mike Gordon, to take over inspection services, and I was one of the ones that voted yes on this. At the time, I don't know if people remember, I wanted it brought back in-house, and I knew that we couldn't get it brought back in-house at that time, because we couldn't do without services. I still think that the city needs a building inspector in-house. That way the city has more control over it, as well as, for the last 2 or 3 years, we have not had a construction industry licensing board, which many of y'all that aren't aware of what that is, that's the licensing board that oversees the residential license, registered license. And to explain, the state has 2 different systems. You have a state certified license, which is managed by the Department of Business and Professional Regulation, and then you have the registered license, which is regulated by the county or the municipality that the license issued. The city doesn't really have any control over state licenses other than forwarding complaints onto the city, forwarding complaints onto the state. But we do have recourse with a registered license. And that's why I think that we need to have a licensing board back in the city of Lynn Haven. That way, if a complaint is filed against a registered license holder, the city has the recourse to not allow him to pull permits in that city anymore. And it's always been, my belief that we needed that. And actually, that's where I started with the city, is I started on the construction licensing board several years ago, when we had one. And of course, that'll be item 19 when we get to it, if the board decides to have a construction licensing board again. But at a minimum, I think that we need to have more control over our licensing department. And by saying that, I think that we need to have a building official and inspector with the city of Lynn Haven that is employed by the city of Lynn Haven. And to give you some numbers, from my understanding, I've asked the city to provide me some information. To date, or I'm sorry, not to date. Let me pull the page up here. Did you provide this to the other commissioners?
No, I didn't.
Okay, I didn't know if you did or not. We have paid Mr. Gordon's company. Give me just a second to find the right page here. This pages are sticking together. Here we go. We have, from July 2019 to April 2021, we have paid Michael Gordon and Associates $1,076,000 for his services. That averages out, if you take the last 6 months, that averages out to $32,000 a month we paid him for services rendered. And if you take that $32,000, multiply it across the year, that's $338,000 a year that we should be paying him for the services. A building official and inspector for the city of Lynn Haven on the high side of salary with compensation should be about $216,000 a year. So there's no reason we can't bring this back in-house and save money. Then that's on an average salary. And I've got this printout if anybody wants to look at it. And I'm sorry, that's not an average salary. I took the high side of the salary for an inspector and building official. But whether it saves us money or not, I still contend that we need to have this in-house. A building official is a state official, and he needs to have some control, the city needs to have some controls over that department and over that official. Now, that's what I've got to say. If anybody's got any questions for me, because like I said, I've done a little research with it, or if the commission's got any questions or statements, please feel free to chime in.
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
I think when we hired Michael Gordon, I think he came to us highly recommended. I think when he came, we were you probably know, 300 or 400 cases behind that ECPI had done drive-bys and not even gotten on a roof. And I want to use the right words here. We never made any attempt to have ECPI arrested, and they were blatant about all that we went through with them. You can call me naive if you want, but I think Michael Gordon is probably not guilty. As a human being, I just can't even fathom that he would do this. And with that said, I know, Mr. Aldridge, you're concerned about lawsuits. I think we're certainly staring at one in the face here. I don't know. Without him being guilty, without, it reads that we're here to vote on whether we fire him or not.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
May I respond? Or, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, that's just my opinion. I feel like, I don't know. I'm very questionable of the whole thing.
Okay. My comments to that would be, number one, EPCI was contractually negligent. I don't think they ever did anything illegal. They had licensed inspectors doing the work.
Mhm.
They were deficit in the work they did, but that was a decision they made, but they were licensed to do the work. Mike Gordon, from what I'm being told by the police department, was negligent in the work that he did criminally. I don't know how this city moves forward. If we don't terminate him, that means he is still the city of Lynn Haven's building official, meaning that he still has to produce or conduct the inspections. How can you have somebody conduct inspections when there is a criminal charge, being pressed against it? So do we shut the building department down and not issue COs, not do inspections until this trial is resolved? The city can't do that. I mean, you would shut down the building. In fact, I had a call yesterday from a builder in Lynn Haven says, hey, what's going on? I've got 2 COs that I'm fixing to ask for the next week and a week and a half. What's going to happen with my house? So we're already getting calls about how is the city going to move forward. I assured him that we are reaching out to the county, and we reached out to Panama City Beach, and we're trying to find interim inspectors to help us move forward. But the city can't sit still.
I agree. No, I agree with what you're saying. Now, we currently, if I'm mistaken, you correct me, okay, because you and I have talked about this, city manager. We currently have a lawsuit against us from our old city inspector. McQuaig?
McQuaig.
And that group?
That is for private provider.
Yeah,
Yes.
McQuaig, actually, that lawsuit is not in regard to EPCI.
No.
That's in regard to them wanting us to
Pay them more
subsidize
money.
the inspection fees.
Yes.
That's a completely different matter. They were not our inspector. EPCI was Bo Creel's company. not McQuaig.
And can't think of the other guy's name. Al. Anyway, I can't think of it.
Wilson.
Al Wilson, yeah. How is he not part of that McQuaig?
He was
group?
originally our building official here. He was an
He
employee
was.
of the city of Lynn Haven
Okay.
prior to EPCI.
Okay.
That lawsuit isn't related to him being an employee.
Right.
That lawsuit's in relation to the state allowing contractors to have private inspectors, and then they expect us to subsidize their work.
How will we have checks and balances if we were to hire an in-house? I mean, how can we keep up with, and I'm not saying it's not a good idea, we're discussing it. How do we keep track of what a city building inspector is going to do? How do we keep track of that, since the organizations or the groups we've hired in the past, they're paid per call or per permit or whatever. If we hire an in-house, how do we keep track and keep tabs of that person?
Well, first he would be an employee of the city of Lynn Haven, and we could verify that he's certified to do the inspections.
Mhm.
Second of all, the building department tracks inspections now. The issue we have with Mike, his company, is that he had employees that weren't licensed to do the inspections.
Mhm.
We had no verification process to determine who he hired. He was the licensed building official. It was his job to make sure his employees were licensed to do work.
Mhm.
If the employees work for the city of Lynn Haven, it'll be our job to verify that they're licensed.
Oh, and you're saying that he did not go back out after those employees and
I have.
verify anything?
I have not done any inspections. I'm going based on what the police department has told me.
Okay. And okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of concerned about the whole lawsuit. I'm going to take your place now. Even though I agree with what Mr. Walker said, you don't operate out of fear at all. But it's my understanding that currently, City of Lynn Haven has like 15, 17 lawsuits against it.
No, that is not correct.
That is not correct,
No,
okay.
that is not correct.
And Mr. Walker's correct, it was like 5 or 6?
Yeah, it's about 6, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to let everybody know how I felt about it, and I can't wait to hear this one go to court and see how it comes out.
Let's let the commission finish their discussion.
No, Mayor Pro Tem, I agree with you. We're a growing city. As you can tell, going up 390 or 389, we all feel the effects of the traffic going home at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, or coming to work in the mornings. And I agree that I believe we need an in-house building inspector for oversight. And also, again, we are a growing city. We shouldn't be contracting things out when we can afford to have someone in-house and possibly even save money doing it. So I think it's a great idea.
Thank you, sir. Any other discussion with the commission?
Then I'll make the motion to approve.
All right, so we have a motion.
I'll second the motion, but I would like to say, what are we going to do in the interim? I know you said we reached out to the county and the Panama City, but what is the ironclad plan to keep the inspections going?
We have reached out to both the county and the
And
municipalities.
what were their responses?
And the county said that they would help. We have 28 inspections that we know we need to get done, and they're going to help us get through those. In the interim, Stephanie and I have been doing some research of building inspectors who have their licenses, and we're reaching out to those to see if temporarily they can help us out. Secondly, I've sent an email out to the municipalities, and they are going to look at their schedules and see how they can help us out. You can do that according to Florida statutes. You can do that. You can have a municipality or even a county be able to help another city out with these until we get someone on board. So it's imperative that the commission give us some direction as to what to do today so we can move forward. Yeah, because it's whatever you decide to do, we will need to act on it fairly quickly.
And I second the motion, so.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion with the commission? Yes, Ms. Richard. I'm sorry, Mr. Scray, you raised your hand, so, okay. I apologize. I thought you'd asked.
I'm not in the building department, as you know. I'm in the planning department. But after the hurricane, immediately after the hurricane, I had to take over the emergency services of the building department. And I can tell you that there are certain services which, when you contracted out, you did not have provided to the city. That if you had an in-house building official and inspector, you would have, such as the substantial damage inspections of properties following storm events, or just, generally dilapidated buildings, that the other inspectors didn't do because it wasn't in their contract. There's also floodplain management, coordination, the CRS stuff, which helps keep the citizens' insurance numbers down, that ordinarily a building official would be involved in, but again, the companies that we contracted with would not provide those services to us. And then I can also say, and I'm speaking for Stephanie here, there are a number of times where citizens or contractors contact the city and they want to touch base and get a hold of the building official, and it's very difficult at the moment. It has been very difficult because we don't have someone who's there in and out all day that we can get in touch with or coordinate with. So I just wanted to put out there that there are certain other advantages to having a building department, because right now we do not have a building department, we have a permitting office. Whereas if you hire people in-house, we'll have a full building department.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir, Mr. Scray.
So somebody who bought a home here last summer, a few concerns. First off, addressing whatever happened in the past, it happened. How do you deal with it? Ms. Tinder has concerns about ongoing lawsuits. Or indictments that can take years. Maybe work with the attorney to figure out, can you suspend that contract until that indictment or what trial, whatever happens, is done. In the meantime, it sounds budget-wise like we can hire more than one person in-house.
Yes, two.
It sounds like we
That's-
can
we're-
afford two.
Yeah, we're looking
I
at-
know there's residential versus commercial. I talked with somebody in the building industry about that. You want to make sure that they have the correct specializations. The benefits of hiring in-house, regardless of what happens with that arrest and possible trial, it sounds like the benefit is to hire in-house. I know Panama City Beach had in-house stuff before they hired the same individual. What are those guys doing? Has anybody reached out to them and see if they want to
Yes.
apply?
Yes.
In the interim, I think you guys are on the right track. Try to get somebody through, just to do the next few weeks till Ms. Gaynor can get her hiring process done. But just as a resident who bought a home, now I'm wondering, did this guy inspect my house before I bought it? I had a couple of people reach out to me too and say the person that they had inspect walked around and just poked at their roof with a stick. Doesn't sound like much of an inspection. So what I would ask the commissioner who made the motion is potentially to maybe amend it to look at suspending and hiring two individuals, and in the meantime approving to have the city manager be able to contract somebody for the next few weeks to cover that, because the way the agenda item is written, there's a lot of questions, and I think the motion needs to cover all of this plan and not just kicking it on to the next meeting. So thank you.
That being said, Commissioner Aldridge, your motion, for clarification, was it to terminate Gordon and to hire two people? I don't.
I did not spell that out in the verbiage.
Mhm.
I can certainly amend my motion.
We would need the second amended as well, so, but if you want to.
We have one more.
Oh, yes, sir.
My name's Woody Newmans, certified building contractor. I'm just gonna throw a suggestion out there because this has haunted me for 30-something years. I've often wished that the cities would go into contract with the county so we'd have one set of rules to build by. I know y'all have never been through this, but when I go to
Actually, I have.
Okay, I go to Lynn Haven, it's a different set of rules to get a permit. When I go to the county, it's a different set of rules. Even though code is the same everywhere, we all fall under the state, but each county or each city has their own little, now I like the way, not who they get their inspections by, but planning and zoning for Panama City gets, you have to go through their approval for anything you do. And then after that, it's released to someone else. So the city's not giving up any control on the things that concern them, i.e. setbacks, and does this fit into our plan and stuff like that. But after you start the process, then it's building code. And, you know, maybe the cost would be similar, but it would certainly help the builders out. And I'm just speaking maybe for a small group, you know, if we had some consistency. And same group of inspectors, same rules. And I think it would be better for the county and the cities as a whole if we consider something like that.
Thank you, sir. For clarification, I'm a state certified building contractor as well. Yes, sir. John? Okay, go ahead, Ms. Parker. Yes, sir.
Jerry Parker, Rhett Place. I was one of the ones that complained about EPCI. It was horrible. I mean, absolutely horrible. 25 exposed nails, incorrect drip plate, and exposed wood. That's what EPCI did for me. Then when I came to commission meetings, I started coming to them after the hurricane. I was under the impression that Mike Gordon was in-house. Okay, this is the first time I'm hearing that he was contract. Okay, because everybody said, we're going to hire in-house, we're going to hire. So when he came on board, fine. So that resulted in 2 roofs for my house, okay? The first one had to be totally taken off. It's a whole nightmare story. However, so City of Lynn Haven, their new inspector came out, did not get on my roof at all. I actually spoke to the man when he came out, told him what my EPCI whole situation was, still did not get on my roof. Called City of Lynn Haven, talked to Mike Gordon. Mike Gordon is the only one that got on my roof from the city, the only one. So my question is, first of all, when was his contract be up? When will his contract be up? Do we know? And prior to this investigation, would he have been rehired if this investigation did not go on?
I can't speak to that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir, Mr. Walker. Oh, well, I'm sorry, Mr. Walker, if you don't mind. John was, yes, sir, John. Sorry about that, sir.
Good morning again. Don't see me up here very often. Been with the city almost 28 years. Prior to these contracts, inspectors, we had our own in-house inspectors. We have a working relationship. As a fire inspector of over 20 years, we work hand in hand with the building inspectors. Every time we've hired a contract inspector, it's never been the greatest. You know, we're always catching things. We're all human. We're going to miss some things. But with our own in-house, it seems to work a lot better. And I think if you look at it, the building department can be set up almost as an enterprise fund. They're supposed to be able to pay for themselves. So regardless of what we do, I think we need to move to an in-house situation.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, John.
Yes, sir, Mr. Walker.
Again, good evening, good morning. All your in-house inspectors didn't work out. In fact, one of your lawsuits is against you is from an in-house Lynn Haven employee inspector. So the state law allows outside people to do that. That is one of the groups that is suing you. If they're allowed to do that, and they're trying to say that this will save you money, why don't you just let the people do it on the outside? I'm not against an in-house, let me get you that way. But outside people, the state law is saying they can do it. And they're saying the people want that. What is happening, as I understand, you're saying that there's subsidy, you're asking subsidy. I didn't get that out of their questions when they brought it up. However, if they can do it and submit their investigation on inspections to Bay County, and Bay County act as the center, that'll solve your temporary problem. That is outside inspectors. It doesn't mean Mr. Wilson. Mr. Wilson is the one, okay? And Mr. Wilson was in-house, and he made our life miserable as when we were doing Roberts Hall. After it was all over, he came to me and told me he's sorry he did that, but he was acting as he was directed. And he was directed as an in-house inspector for Glen Haven under the direction of the city manager. So I agree that in-house would be the way to go. You're right, save money, you will do that. But again, then you have to trust and you have to be sure that that person is going to be as honorable as Mr. Gordon was when he first started. As I understand, his track record was pretty good at the beginning. So my point is this: most and all of your in-house inspectors were no good. Didn't work. That's why the state's allowing outside people to do it. And if you can work something I'm used to feedback. If you can use outside for temporarily and go through Bay County, which we've done that. And then really search hard for a good in-house one. I happen to agree with the chief. That's the best way.
Thank you, sir. For clarification, we do allow outside agencies to do inspections.
Yes, we do.
The question is, in the lawsuit, is about, they want us to reduce our permit fees because they're doing their own inspections. That's where I'm saying they want us to subsidize their work. They want us to reduce the fees that the contractor has to pay.
Yes.
Okay.
And just for clarification also, Bay County is pretty stretched themselves, as you know. They had some dealings with some of the people in their department. So Bay County will not be able to help us long-term under any circumstances, okay?
Yes, sir.
My name's Tyson Scott with Coastal Code Services. I am a private provider. I just wanted to throw some information out there. Not the public usually doesn't know about all the laws and rules with the building department. In the absence of a licensed building code administrator, the building department actually stops. There's no inspections, no certificate of occupancies and such, everything. Just wanted to say we're 3 weeks out from being in hurricane season. The building department's not running right now as we speak. I'd like to offer my services as a temporary provider until you get your permanent fix. I think you guys are moving in the right direction for a permanent fix and hiring somebody. But I just wanted to throw my name out there as a building inspector of 18 years, building code administrator, and FEMA disaster certified. Bay Home Builders Association had a meeting with Bay County Tuesday before last, and they're talking about how they're way behind with permits and such. So I'm just saying, again, we're offering to help you, and we can start right away to help you guys get caught back up. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Good morning. I'm Jennifer Hodges. I'm your new HR director, and I'm also a citizen. Let me just provide some information that might clarify some questions that have come up. The current contract with Gordon Associates ends September 2021. And in that contract is the ability for the commission or this party to immediately terminate if there is, if the contractor has been indicted for criminal charges, especially including fraud or any charges of moral turpitude or violent behavior. And I think that the charges that have been levied against Mr. Gordon fits that criteria. You all can make decisions based on that contract, but you would not be in violation. Of course, I would look to our legal counsel to confirm that. As the gentleman mentioned, the statute does require every city and county to have a building official. That's tough to do for small cities, and so there is the option of joint management of that function. That allows our city manager to connect and reach out to our counties and our cities and see if we could do a joint venture during this emergency time, as well as contract. A contractor can fit that role. I have been asked to provide some information related to bringing an in-house program. Hopefully it's at its beginnings, but I think we have the basis to do that. So if you need my assistance, just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other public commentary? Yes, ma'am.
I guess it's all kind of confusing. Growing up here in Panama City and stuff, I've talked to a number of people. Mike Gordon has an impeccable reputation. I can't help but think this is personal, based off of a CO that was needed, and some work that needed to be done in order to get that CO. I also want to go ahead and say, you know, you had a developer here, Mr. Thames, Gordon Thames, who he is company E and person D in the ABCs of corruption concerning Scott Maddox. It's a printed article, and you all received it.
Sure.
But he got a buy. He got a pass. I think, you know, the truth is going to win out here. I think we're going to find out a lot of stuff. I think that there was poor handling of how he was picked up. And I think that how quickly everyone went to the press as though they really, really, really wanted to do some harm. That's what I think. But I'm real curious about that CO and the items that need to be done in order to get that CO. I think this is personal. I'm not saying that he's innocent or guilty, but I've been in this room and seen y'all have somebody that admitted to guilt, and you continue to pay his insurance. It's just, you make up the rules as you go along. And like I said, I don't live here, but I used to. And this is just unbelievable. And I think y'all need to maybe go on the Bay County Clerk of Courts and see exactly how many open lawsuits there are.
Thank you, ma'am. Sure. Chief, come on up. First, please start about when this, how long has this investigation been going on?
That's where I'm going. So this investigation came to light when all the Calhoun County permits were being issued over there. Some of these were supposed to be a 7 or 8 hour proctored test. They were getting them in 10 minutes. Mr. Gordon, too, got one of these permits. Investigator McClendon went over. He worked with DBPR, FDLE. We started an investigation because there was a complaint on Mr. Gordon with DBPR. So since he was our inspector, I had him go back an entire year, and I can show you pictures and anybody else pictures where he sent unqualified employees in to do inspections. I'll tell you, Ms. Tender, my biggest fear in this job is not being shot. My biggest fear is putting an innocent person in jail. And that's all I have to say.
Any other public commentary? Hearing none, I think we have a motion and a second on the floor.
You have to
That-
amend your motion.
Yeah, what were you amending? I have forgotten.
I think it needs to be in a couple steps. You know, one would be whether or not to terminate the contract for the causes discussed today. And then the second would be direction to the city manager. Certainly first, you know, interim hiring.
Terminate or suspend
Right.
until outcome.
Yeah, so one would be about the contract, the second would be about contracting another, you know, private company in the interim until she can go forward with the hiring process and coming up with a job description and getting that advertised.
I could put that in the form of one motion, though, correct? I don't have to split it out into two, as you were saying.
Because it's on the agenda, and it's written in that sense here. And then just to go back and also say, our HR director just got up and told you what is actually in his contract, and it does say contract as a building official or inspector with the city, and give the city manager the authority to hire a building official and inspector as employees for the city.
Doesn't say that we have to use a temporary service until we hire someone?
Well, I mean.
We need to
it's-
fill the
need that
gap.
authority as
Decides what
well.
we wanna do.
Right,
So we're
right.
in motion second, is
Right.
how this is
So-
gonna move forward. So, you know, we've got a motion and a second on the floor. I'm either gonna call the vote unless y'all either rescind your motion or amend it.
Okay, I will amend the motion then. I'm gonna go with our law enforcement. I make the move to terminate Gordon and Associates as our contracted building official going forward. And then also want to give approval up from this board to the city manager to get out and find someone interim until we can hire an in-house inspector. Did that work, Mr. Attorney?
Yes, that'll work, because at the time, a job description needs to be created, so that'll come back when actually, if we do go in-house, but what your motion is will cover us.
Okay, thank you.
Right now.
Okay, so you want to amend your motion, is Mr. Perno willing to amend the second?
Yes, and I'll second that motion.
Okay, so we have an amended motion in the second. Is there any other discussion with this commission? No, and I've seen a hand raised, so you're done? Okay, so, is there any other discussion? Hearing none, city manager, please call the roll.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell.
Yes. Motion carries. Moving to item number 19. Discussion approval to reestablish the Construction Industry Licensing Board for the city of Lynn Haven. I think I pretty well explained what that board is earlier. So if there's any questions about what a Construction Industry Licensing Board, please feel free to ask.
This is volunteer
Aye.
board.
It is a volunteer, non-paid board, usually made up of a business or citizen of the city, and then a building contract license, usually electrical license, and usually a plumbing license contractor sits on the board. And what they do is they review complaints brought to that board by the building official to determine whether a registered license holder will have, whether he's found innocent, guilty, or what's going to happen to his license in the city of Lynn Haven. But it only affects registered license holders. State certified license holders, all that board can do is forward that complaint on to BPR for determination on what the state construction industry licensing board makes a determination by state licenses.
And that's exactly what they do. They wouldn't research our impact fee process or anything
No,
like
they're
that.
the construction industry licensing board is strictly there to deal with complaints brought to the building official, the contractor licenses.
Do they, when they bring their complaint, is there a place in Bay County where we already have one of these? Where
Well,
if you have a complaint, you would go to?
For the city of Lynn Haven, no.
No.
Because we don't have one, but the county has one.
Bay County.
Panama City Beach has one, yes.
And then do we collect a fee? Is there any revenue to having our own or any, what would be the benefit of having our own? If you can already do it in Bay County,
Control of registered license holders.
in
registered
Lynn
license-
Haven?
In Lynn Haven, yes. We can restrict them from not being able to have pull permits in the city of Lynn Haven.
I was just going to add that in our Unified Land Development Code, it states that we have one, and apparently we used to have one,
Yeah.
but then it was dismantled probably when we started contracting out. So in our ULDC, it says that we have one.
So-
Just
and
like it says a
he
planning
was on it,
board. And,
yeah.
Yes,
You were on
I
it.
used to sit on the board, yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, the motion, or the item is for reestablishment of that board.
And what, do you know exactly why they got rid of it?
I would assume it was
That's what-
disbanded when Al Wilson was terminated, because we no longer had a building official in the city of Lynn Haven.
So we contracted at that
I
point.
see.
So if we're gonna go in-house, it makes sense to do. So I'll make the motion that we reestablish the board.
So we have a motion.
Second.
Second. Is there any discussion with the commission?
Now-
There's no cost to the city
Yeah.
to operate the board. It's
Right.
a volunteer board.
Yeah, and basically what we'll do is just bring back an ordinance to reestablish it and put it in our code.
I think, I think she said, I think it's already
Already?
there. It's
It-
just a matter of,
It's in the LD.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll look and see
Review.
how, sometimes it's a separate ordinance in our code of ordinances, not in
okay,
the LDC, but I'll make sure it's
thank you.
there.
Any discussion with the public? Yes, sir, Mr. Scray.
So once this is established, you said there's 3 positions, 1 citizen.
Usually 4.
4 positions. So then once that's established, anybody that's applying to that, whether it's part of can you say again how the members were made up?
Well, it's a citizen, a building contractor, a plumbing contractor, electrical contractor.
Okay, and so anybody that wants to volunteer for that, they would put in
They
an
would put an
application
application to
similar
apply.
to the other committees,
Yes.
and that would be reviewed by the commission, and the commission would choose who to appoint?
I'm not real, yes, sir. Did he? Okay.
Okay.
That's something that we'll need to look into, see
Yeah, I
how
would
the
just-
approval process is.
Who, cause I mean, the other boards that we have, who appoints those people, you know, try to keep it the same across the,
It would make sense for
board.
this commission to be the one that.
That was
and
my
we need to
thought.
look into that.
We
because
can do that.
they report then back to the commission as a representative of the city and citizens, not, you know, yeah, so,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I have one final question going back to the roof situation. If a private citizen chooses to have an independent inspection because of the problems, will the city of Lynn Haven reimburse them for that fee? That would be my question. Since we've had so many problems, and I'm telling you, everyone in Bay County should have a private inspection because they were done so haphazardly that there's going to be problems with roofs in Bay County. So that would be my question to you guys. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. That's a good question, and this commission will have to look into that.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't commit to
Yeah, yeah.
reimbursing or paying,
Yeah.
you know,
And
paying for private inspections.
obviously,
I mean,
any of the supposed fraudulent inspections that have been completed will have to be re-inspected at the cost of the city. But I don't know prior, you know, if it doesn't fall into that line, that it wasn't fraudulent, I don't think the city would do that. But that's just my opinion. So, but thank you for the question. Any other public questions? Hearing none, city manager, please call the roll.
Commissioner Parno?
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell?
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. And that's moving us to the last agenda item. Thank you all very much for being here today. Have